Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. I am Tamara Johnson. Sheely, good morning. It is 2021. Praise the Lord, guys. We made it. Praise God. We made it. 2020 was a year that none of us will ever, I'm sure, ever forget. I hope, a lot of people were journaling and because these will be stories we tell for a long, long time. 2020 was totally that kind of year. So happy new year, everybody. Good morning. Good morning. Let me see where my trusty co-host is this morning. Miss Robbie. Good morning. Happy new year.
Happy New Year, my friends.
Oh my gosh, girl, 2020 is over.
Yeah. It's funny. People couldn't really actually go really celebrate
Yeah.
because the whole COVID, social distancing, the half closures. Atlanta accommodated some openings. And now we have, well, not about now, but there are spikes.
Yeah. Yeah. But you know what? Yeah, I'm just, 2020 was, it was a long year for me. I thought back, I was thinking, I started out this year. I was still in law school. I was still at Emory and I was in my last semester at Emory. And I knew it was so like when that semester started, it was just like I felt like I was in this rat race and everything was just like coming at me and just so many things around me was happening. I qualified to run for the US Senate and just like but trying to finish school, now I'm in this race and then here's COVID and I'm like, everybody's life I think kind of spiraled.
Mhm.
It was a rough year.
It was different. Oh, thank you, Justin. Mine slowed the hell down. I know that sounds weird, but it did. Because I didn't go as many places. I wasn't around as many people. There
Mhm.
was business, but it's definitely slowed down and political chat. Oh, feliz año nuevo.
Yeah, it was a ooh wee. So, I was on the campaign trail in the middle of a pandemic and I didn't stop. I just prayed and trusted God. And Robbie, I went around and I still did, I of course was careful and I was social distancing, but I still did everything I knew to do as a
Mhm.
candidate and ran and got to November with 106,000 votes in sixth place. I felt like I felt accomplished, but this year was 2020 was rough. I'm so glad for 2021.
And you never caught it, right? You never, you
And
all
I was
those people
around
you
people
were,
that
I
that
know,
did. Yeah,
right? In
praise
rural
the Lord.
Georgia, in South Georgia, in those hot spots.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I didn't. I try to do everything I can. I do believe in, I'm from that era where my grandmama used to mix up stuff and give it to us. Honey, I can't tell you what she used to give me. All I know is it was this stuff in a jar in the refrigerator. And that was the kind of stuff we ate off the land. All of our stuff were my grandmother and my uncle, her brother, they had a garden and everything we ate came from the garden. Like I don't remember, it was a treat to me as a little girl. My dad
Mhm.
would come around and he would take us to the store and I would get chips and soda. And that was like a treat because I never
Mhm.
ate that kind of stuff. So now as an adult, I'm still very mindful of what I put in my body. And I think now we're in this COVID season, that is definitely a conversation I want us to start having. Maybe we'll get some people who are holistic medicine because there are alternatives that we
Excellent.
have to
Yeah.
really kind of get into.
I think we have that in common. You grew up knowing the value of lands, and you and I discussed this the other day and the sustainability of it and living off the land. I had experiences as a younger person just knowing the value of property. My parents were owners, they were small business owners, and they owned their own. We owned where we live, not outright, but I knew that with that type of stability, because when one of my parents passed away very young and it kind of disrupted the family, I didn't have that anymore. And I knew how tumultuous that made a young person's life. Imagine we're talking about these evictions and moratoriums and affordable housing and the
Mhm.
homeless crisis. Imagine kids, who are trying to go to school in the middle of their families being uprooted. That's why I know it's so dysfunctional.
Mhm.
So between your sustainability and living off the land and health, those are basically the three pillars, where you live, health and sustainability, and food access, living wage. With those, people can have stability.
Mhm.
That being said, to your credit, you tried to make a difference. I think you made an impact, a huge impact. Over 100,000 people thought so too. But whoever wins, the whole talk is Georgia now. Whoever wins, whether it's the Democrats, the Republicans, A, B, whatever, whoever's in charge, without fiscal oversight over where that funding's going, will it ever reach the people it's intended to?
Mhm.
That's kind of where I'm, kind of
Yeah,
still, but yeah.
I get it. I get it. We have to be, people were coming at me now, Robbie, because I had been talking about after November and the results were out. I was, my hashtag is withhold the vote. And I said
Mhm.
withhold the vote. And it's like, there's been these conversations, like I'm telling people not to vote. Withhold does not mean don't vote. Withhold means to hold back. This is
Mhm.
how we
Negotiate.
negotiate, leverage.
Yeah.
Damn.
Timely negotiation. Yeah. I,
Yeah, let's have a negotiation now. Raphael, it's just been sad to me that he's run a whole campaign with no black agenda and no plan for reparations. How can you ask black people? But see, here's the thing: he's not asking black people. He's taking for granted that black people are going to vote for him, and because he's a pastor, and that's when I talked about this past week the indoctrination of the church and the Democratic Party. But between him being a pastor and what that reverence that has on my community, our pastors are our leaders, and
mhm.
for him to run with that reverend in front of his name and for him to run with that D behind his name for the Democratic Party, that's a signal
Mhm.
to black people right there. Just vote. Just vote. And we're
Yeah.
not, we've been so accustomed, since we've had this right to vote. It's sacred. Take nothing. I know the power. I always say the power that we have as a people is the money in our pocket and that vote. I'm real clear that
Mhm.
that's power. But we
Mhm.
have to now be mindful to not keep giving it away for free. We give it
Yeah.
away for free. We get nothing in exchange for that.
That was one of the most disappointing, and I won't put it on Reverend Warnock, although he sat in a position to make, the most difference. That's
Mm-hmm.
really the bottom line. But
Mm-hmm.
what that tells me is that, he has people he answers to, meaning the Democratic Party. And that means that the Democratic Party doesn't believe they can win on a ticket for ADOS, or it's not important enough to them. And I've had, chats just like you with folks, and they're like, but if we don't vote for B, option B, the Democratic ticket, the other option is option A, the Republican ticket, which is even worse. That's why, some people call it the uni party. That's why this option A or option B is so problematic, because those are actually not choices. And if there was ever a time that it was going to be possible to achieve what was rightfully owed for descendants, of slavery who remain today, it would have been when the Democrats wanted those two seats. Because the Republicans are not probably going to run a ticket based on reparations. But the Democrats needing that demographic to vote, and actually that demographic being the demographic that delivered for Biden, one would think that the loyalty would say yes. Here we will do this, put it on the table and have this discussion. But it didn't happen, and that's unfortunate to me, because even if this $2,000, which is really a one-time, passes, which doesn't really sustain anybody, those $2,000 are not going to our homeless people. Those $2,000 are not going to our people on the fringes, who are the ones that are most at risk. So in essence, we settled. We settled for less than what was possible, and that's really disappointing to me.
Mm-hmm.
In general, I don't think those people are sacrificial. It's really strange, when I put up that video about from all those homeless people who were predominantly people of color, I'd say 90% around the church. I got a commentary saying this isn't in front of the church. Doesn't make a difference. It's across the street. I don't know why. I don't know where all these excuses are coming from, why we tolerate this, why we accept a uni party that pays themselves well. I mean, I don't really know what that's about.
It's about money, it's about power, it's about control. It's about Americans not understanding collectively. We don't understand how these systems are designed to work against us. There's, David always, and you always talk about these 1%ers and how they really do control everything. And we're just like pawns. It's like, let's see which side is going to win. But really, these are two sides of the same coin. So it really doesn't matter who wins.
I think people get caught up in the novela, it's like a novela. What do you call that? The soap opera. We get caught up in you got to beat Trump. We demonize, entire people, that's not going to work. They're going to come back with a vengeance in 2 to 4 years, based on what was happening. And we form these sides. And it's really, there's, to some degree, I can see value and it's going to sound weird, from both sides. I can see why people prefer smaller government, which is really a Republican, trait, because sometimes you see projects where government has handled it horribly and has been horribly fiscally irresponsible, and the people that were supposed to get help didn't, and instead they line their pockets. And I can see why, Democrats want basic, quality of life for all. That's not charity. We're all contributing in some way. And for the people that can't, we got to take care of them, because why would we want to pay 4 to 5 times what it costs afterwards when we didn't take care of them when we could have? But we don't have an option of a trait from you and a trait from you, option C, which that's what people told me, well, what else can I do if I just sit it out? So there you have it. We have a uni party that pays itself well, that we don't know where exactly the money goes. I think the Russell Center just got $25 million to create more jobs. Half of that's probably philanthropic. When they're, 20 deep across the street from the Russell Center, homeless, unemployed, right here in Atlanta. So, I know people in the system who have said we have paid to solve problems over and over and over, and they're never solved. So that component, I don't know. And, last week we had, was it Brian Sawinski on last week?
Yeah.
To me, when I said explain that, David, I think David was, and you were like, explain white people. I didn't mean explain white people. I meant this should be your ally. This should be who your audience is. Why isn't he for the Democratic Party? And the truth is that man explained it directly. He said, I've had experiences with the Democratic Party. I lived them, where the unions were busted and people, basically walked away with corrupt money. And that's why he wasn't a fan. He couldn't go Republican, but he couldn't go Democratic. And see, to me, I think sometimes intellectuals, I'm sorry, David's not here right now, so I shouldn't really, but intellectuals speak about unionization and the power, but I don't know that they've ever experienced what that man described. And I understood that, because I've seen Atlanta officials, who are predominantly Democratic, go against, malign their own constituency, go against their own district, and line their pockets and post happily on social media. So I understood that. In fact, the other day, someone came to my house, and of course I went live again. I think they're going to stop now. I don't know. And it was a couple, and I felt bad a little bit, because it was 2 Latinas. You did know, you asked, now it's up to them. If not, karma comes. Oh, yeah, that's true. So they showed up at my house, and these, folks, and I speak Spanish, so I could have, switched, but they didn't tell me that. So they were here for the they were here with a nonprofit it was a union called Unite Here, based 501 Pulliam, which is right where the Democratic Party is based. But the union, which is 5 minutes from my house, brought these ladies in. It's on camera. So I'm like, from California and Vegas during a pandemic. And respectfully, they started speaking in Spanish, and I understood, but they didn't know what to do, because they didn't have full governance, in English. And we have the Democratic Party 5 minutes from my house with unions even hiring non-local during a pandemic, bringing people interstate who can't even articulate. And these folks were here for Warnock and Ossoff. To me, that tells you everything. Nobody knows what's happening locally. Why wouldn't you hire local? Why wouldn't you? I mean, this is a union who's doing this. And I think I sent you some of the stuff that was sent over. It says full racial equality. The marketing that's being put out isn't even. How do you have full racial equality without reparations? So, and there's a hypocrisy too. I don't hear John Ossoff calling out the Democrats locally. I don't hear people saying, we need to get our own house cleaned up. Reverend Warnock's team didn't reach out to you. The Democratic Party probably didn't let him. There isn't a commission, for all, instead of them cherry picking candidates. So in essence, we're continuing to fund a political industrial complex on both sides. And we don't know what's going to happen.
Tuesday will be interesting. I actually, someone sent me a message and said that he's a stylist, and he said that some of his clients are voting, Democrat on one ticket and, Democrat and Republican. They're just kind of all over the place. And I think people are just, so I think Tuesday will be very, very interesting, to say the least.
Yeah,
it will be. It will be. But I'm standing firm that without a Black agenda, without a plan for reparations, you don't have that's not inclusive. It's not inclusive. And I don't want to play political games anymore. We're done, because the data shows that by 2053, Black America will have zero net wealth. And we've been accepting crumbs. And I actually posted something this week where a lady called me and she said, they mad at you down here in South Georgia. I'm like, mad at me for what? Because I'm trying to make sure you get something in exchange for your vote. How can you be mad at me for that?
Well, the irony is you actually you attempted and made every concerted effort with the, leverage that you did have to carry on the will of Dr. King. To carry, that was what the Poor People's Campaign, was all about, going to Washington to get our check. Whose check? It's obvious who he was talking about. So you did the work of really the Reverend King, who used to be at Ebony. I mean, that's what I'm wondering. Like, I don't understand where people are going with this. Like, don't they understand, they're jumping on a bandwagon to basically support a whole nother slew of millionaires. Democrats are very wealthy too. John Ossoff is a millionaire. His net worth is $5 to $8 million. Okay, I don't know how he comes from a very well-to-do family in Tucker. He went to an Ivy League school. How do you think he got the internship under John Lewis? Who, rest his soul.
And Raphael be quiet and do what they tell him to do, he could be a millionaire too.
Well, his salary is $275,000 a year without speaking engagements.
That's not enough, Robbie. So
in 4 years, he made $1 million being, a reverend without speaking engagements. He's been at the church for 15 years. That's over $3 million. Why are there homeless people outside of your church? Why are you not calling for immediate public aid in a public health crisis when there's 40 deep camps of homeless people who are predominantly 80 to 90% Black?
13% of the population in this country as Black people. All right. We're over 40% of the homeless. And when the last time I came downtown and rolled around into the city, Robbie, I could not believe the number of homeless people that I saw. I could not believe it. You got these beautiful high rises. Atlanta is beautiful. And you got these homeless people. I drove down one street and I looked over and it was kind of wooded right there. And I could see the camps. Like, I saw the tent. You can ride on 75, 85, the connector downtown, and you can see where they've kind of been living under the bridges.
You're right, though, not anymore, because that's what those rocks.
That's the rocks.
that we paid for. We paid for someone to come in with bulldozers to put rocks underneath our bridges to stop homeless people who are predominantly Black and brown, 90% Black. I know, because I go there all the time. We've had Marshall Rancifer on here. He works with the homeless directly in the streets. How much money are we spending for homelessness program, affordable housing? And what are we doing? Where does it go? That's what I'm kind of worried about. Whoever's in charge. So let's say the Democrats do win. That would be a positive thing, right? Let's allegedly, right? Positive. So now we're supposed to have a government of checks and balances. Now we'll have the presidency, the House, and the Senate. Let's say all the money comes flooding in. Who's watching it?
Because I don't want no more damn social programs, Robbie. Black people, we're done with social programs. Cut the damn check. Give us our reparations. Give us our land. We can grow our own damn food, and we can be self-determining. We can start businesses in our communities. We can do this. So it just kind of, it bothers me. And I'm, going back to Brian Slowinski last week, and you're talking about less government. Yeah, let's get some balance. I don't want no more social programs. Cut the check. Give us our reparations. My agenda was to create the reparations administration. Let's have we need a whole agency designated to making sure that Black Americans, those of us who are descendants of slavery in this country, get exactly what we're owed. This is a debt, America.
No, and I completely am with you. Any reasonable person understanding what has happened should have no negation for what you just stated. What troubles me is that what people seem to be saying on both sides, really, the Democratic Party side, is we're going to fight for a living wage for everybody. We're going to fight for an affordable housing component or medical for everybody. That everybody was not a slave. You know what I'm saying? Like, that should be a basic quality of life for everybody. That is true. But that is a very different situation than being a descendant of a slave in this country who basically performed, for several centuries or hundreds of years without what's monetary owed.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's been done for Japanese people. Native Americans have treaties, lands. Yes, they've been violated, but they're negotiating, right? They're receiving appointments now, and the Biden administration is being. So I don't really understand the disconnect. But the disconnect is that I don't think that either party believes in reparations. And the Republicans don't, and it looks like the Democrats don't, because why wouldn't, if they do, and they're going to do it behind the scenes. I've heard that theory, like it'll come later. So basically, you're not going to mention it, but you'll address it afterwards. For what?
Well, let me tell you, there is talk inside. I talk to Democrats and Republicans, independents, Green Party, Libertarians. I talk to everybody, and there is talk inside of the Republican Party. Don't get it twisted. They are talking about. They don't necessarily call it reparations. They talk about inheritance owed. They have conversations, and I've been privy to some.
Okay.
So they have conversations about this. This is not, and here we are in Georgia. Georgia is the Republican Party nationally. They're infighting just like we're infighting. Good, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Republicans, here in Georgia, Brian Kemp, he's our governor, but there's a primary, coming in 2022. I'm really believing he ain't gonna just run and not be primary. There's an opportunity. If we're smart people here in Georgia, let's have that conversation. It's about playing politics. It's not about personalities. It's not about these people in office. It's about policy. I don't care who initiates it. I don't give a damn who gets credit for it. Let's get it done. So if the Republicans want to have a conversation about reparation, inheritance owed with those of us in Georgia, I hope we are smart enough, Georgians, to have that conversation. If they want to have that conversation, let's have it.
Well, interestingly enough, though, if the Democrats do win, how would anything get passed from a Republican agenda unless the Democrats allowed it? That's where I'm baffled. Like, we need checks and balances, but we need to control all three branches of government to get anything done. That's why I'm saying this A and B, it cannot work. It doesn't work.
No, it doesn't work. Let's put up. Parties don't want to piss off their base offering reparations up front.
You know what?
Let's stay there with that question. Let's stay there with that comment. Don't want to piss off their base offering reparations up front. They're going to have a new base. Look at Donald Trump, Republicans. He done siphoned off part of your quote unquote base. So you're going to have to reach out to some other people. So who is your base, Republicans? Who is your base?
Well, my concern with that is that when you say you're going to run on a platform, right, and you don't deliver it, people get upset. When you claim a platform and then bring it in later on the back end, people feel deceived. That's why people don't trust politicians.
Mm-hmm.
Just say exactly what you mean. And that's why I have a lot of respect for your campaign, Tamara. You said it out front. This is my agenda. This is what I believe. Take it or leave it. And for me, come January 5th, okay, this is what y'all wanted. We got to release that and be like, oh, well, let's see where this goes.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Pushing reparations to the back of the discussion is America pushing what's important to Black people to the back of their minds. Yep, absolutely. It was Republicans who offered 40 acres and a mule in the first place. Yep. So maybe we're going back in time. Maybe we're rewinding because we were Republicans, Black people. We were Republicans at one point. Maybe this is like, I'm at this point, I'm like Ice Cube. I love the fact that Ice Cube is like, here's the Black agenda. Who wants to negotiate, Robbie? I love that. Who wants to negotiate?
He learned that. If you watch the movie of the band, Straight Outta Compton and Public, it was an NWA or Public Enemy. He learned how to negotiate from bad business deals that happened to him, contracts where he didn't get what was owed to him. And I love that movie. I mean, I still think we need an option 3 because until there is an actual, I don't have to vote for you. I don't have to choose this because this is so much worse. I can actually select this and you understand that. I don't know that there'll actually be, an honest full party. We don't have an honest full party. We don't.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like having people choose, hey, you want a rotten apple or a moldy orange? Like I want a healthy fruit that I'm gonna eat, that's gonna help really my body. I don't want to suffer from moldy orange and I don't want a rotten apple.
Mm-hmm.
Can I get something that's of value fully?
And what people don't know is that we didn't choose these candidates at the top of the ticket. They were chosen for us. The money. I look back and I think about this race. Money won. Money won. They were able to spend money, outspend us on so many levels. We didn't choose these 4 candidates that we have. They were chosen.
Mm-hmm. Well, see, that's what concerns me about Ossoff and Warnock, because when you're selected, especially given, let's keep it real, they're both affluent. These are both affluent people.
Mm-hmm.
So this is not someone like AOC, and I know she's not, but she has had, jobs in the service industry. She knows what it's like to be evicted, to lose a home. That happened to her family. And that matters. I mean, if you're earning $275 is, what is that, 5 times what the average salary in Georgia is? And that's a reverend salary without speaking engagements. That's who,
He said we need a third independent congressional Black party with leverage. It's unrealistic to expect the party that's filled with white supremacists or the party that's controlled by white paternalists to deliver anything concrete for Black people.
For those of people who don't know what the term white paternalist, I've been studying a lot. Can you want to expand on it, or does he want to expand on it?
Go ahead, because I'm gonna make another comment. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, I've been reading, and Kwame, if I get this wrong, Kwame Lazarus, please, put up. I don't want to misspeak, but it's a fascinating discussion. The white paternalist. Basically, and I've seen this over and over with nonprofits. I'm gonna determine, what's best for you, even though you're an adult. So in Southwest Atlanta, we have so many nonprofits, and Annie Casey's one of them over by Pittsburgh. They're actually funded by UPS. It's an arm of UPS. So it's fascinating when laws are passed to govern corporations, but then nonprofits are exempt. Well, Annie Casey owns this 30-acre parcel across from Pittsburgh that sits on the Beltline. It's very unusual for a nonprofit to hold on to land. Well, they did, and it's actually been happening over here in Southwest Atlanta a lot. So they took this, so they took this piece of land and sat on it for 10 years, basically starved Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh had no jobs. And then Annie Case decided, well, we're going to take single family residential and flip properties in Pittsburgh, and that'll help the area. So Annie Casey, funded by UPS, this nonprofit, would hire consultants from outside, and then they would kind of give little shavings to the small groups in Pittsburgh and never connected them. And when I started to get involved locally, I didn't understand. I'm like, why aren't these groups connected? And then they would fund one group called the Pittsburgh Community Initiative, I believe, PCIA. And that group was flipping single family residential. So eventually Pittsburgh got flipped. Why? Locals didn't have jobs. Who owns a 30-acre parcel across the street? Annie Casey, right? So here we go. They basically decided, right, as a white paternalistic figure. And the irony is that they did it with our tax funds. Annie Casey was funded by Invest Atlanta to develop that property. And so the community of Pittsburgh is basically fully gentrified. They starved it and made property off of it, and they still own a 30-acre parcel now on the Beltline. Their consultants were from outside. They never listened to locals. And the organization, PCIA, Pittsburgh Community Initiative, once everything started to erupt, he drove up one day when we were walking door to door. And I wondered, who was that? He drove a Benz. He took off and left to Harvard. And people were happy for him about it as an individual. But what did it do for that community? And we are rampant with those type of nonprofits, rampant, and they make bank. There's a Bearings Brake Shop in Adair Park. They have a huge building to help kids with bikes. These are all basically white patriarchal nonprofits who come to Southwest Atlanta to set up camp. And you're helping, little urban kids with bikes, but you're not helping their families. And now you retained this massive structure of a building and added value for yourselves and your own family. But what's happening to the community around you? It basically just makes people feel better instead of really doing an impact. The Carver Market, owned by Focus Christian Ministries, they own a ton. They don't have to pay taxes because they're a nonprofit. I mean, we're surrounded by these nonprofits. And all I saw, especially in real estate, were a lot of these nonprofits. Focus Christian Ministries is funded by St. Vincent de Paul. These are white patriarchal churches. And their funds, they're collecting assets. And when these folks, they come in to help the community, they buy up property. They live in property. Then they sell and they raise, the values of those properties. And they take no accountability for what's happening. And it's fascinating to watch. I mean, it's fascinating and sad to watch. And then they wonder why there's a divide. So I'm glad he thinks that was a good example of it. But the same thing that's why I have no faith in the neoliberals, the progressives, because today our signs with Warnock and Ossoff, that's what, in my opinion, Martin Luther King would define of the white progressive. You want to define the future, the white progressive. You want to say you can have a living wage. We're not as horrific as Trump, who was just silly enough to say it. He was privileged enough to say what most people know not to say. If when he said, grab him by the, what, why do we have a rape epidemic? If he wasn't being just straight out and honest, he was just silly enough not to know not to say it. Why do we have a rape epidemic? Why is 1 in 4 women assaulted? Because it's actually what occurs. We have this phony culture of alleged ethics with people. No, I'm sorry. We're all fallible. We all make mistakes. The question is, do you have a pattern of harming people? But I'm sure we could pull up stuff with Biden. I'm sure we could pull up stuff with Ossoff. I'm sure we could still pull up stuff with Warnock. I get stuff all the time. And, with the situation with Warnock's wife, ex-wife, whatever, who works for the city, by the way, or did at one point. That's all messy too. Come on. We don't have this clean care. What are we even pretending anymore?
Amen, Robbie.
Well, it would be refreshing for someone to just be like, hey, we do want this basic quality of life, but this particular demographic, this subgroup has experienced this. It's documentable. We haven't done a good job of messaging. We haven't done a good job of really educating people, and this is what needs to be done to get sustainability. And it's the right thing to do, ironically. But I don't see anyone saying that. Not on the up and up, not on the front. Not to be rude. She's still in her robe. This is not a robe. This is a sweater. This is Emmanuel.
Emmanuel, don't come for Robbie.
What? This is a sweater, sir.
No worries.
And if I was in my robe, I can't be in my robe.
No worries, Robbie. We're not good. We're not giving. No, we don't. We don't need that one. So it's people were saying to me that I was a one issue candidate. Somebody made that comment, like me being a one issue candidate. Going back to what you said, I'm a priority candidate. I prioritize, like Robbie, what you just said. That Robbie, please stop reading that post. That is, we
I'm
gonna delete.
listening.
Emmanuel, don't make us delete you out the.
No, leave him in here. But I'm listening. But I actually, after you say, I would love to, because this is
No,
the
no,
argument of people
no.
pulling up
Bye,
their pants.
Emmanuel.
No,
Bye.
no,
You gone. Deuces. We ain't. That
no.
ain't how I rock, and that ain't how we roll. If you can't bring something constructive, don't bring it at all. 2021. There it is, Robbie. Going back to my comment. Let's get back on track. People were saying that I was a one issue candidate. Going back to what you just said, my answer to that is me. I'm a priority candidate. I prioritize, the needs. And when you have homeless people, like you say, living in the streets, we have, like, Black people are, this COVID, it really, really showed how vulnerable we are as a community. These are some very, very, very hard times. And we have to be mindful that this $600 stimulus that came, that'll pay a bill or a couple bills, might buy you a little grocery, but it's not enough. It's not enough to
It's not
stimulate the
sustainable.
economy at all.
No, it's not sustainable. And I think what the Democrats are saying is, well, when we have a living wage for everybody, right, 5 for 15, and medical, and we get into affordable housing, that will have some type of state sustainability overall. And I understand that a basic quality of life is completely necessary. That does not address the issue of what happened to descendants of slavery in this country. It doesn't. It doesn't address the 200 or 400 years of free labor, and the damage that was done. It doesn't address it. And the fact is, they don't want to let him back in.
Hell no, Robbie.
Tamara,
He's
por favor.
gone. Now he's been blocked. I deleted the comment and let him stay. Now he's been blocked.
No.
No. Yeah. I'm not. We
No,
not.
this is why. You know why? Because I actually, when that guy Brian Sawinski started to explain what his issue is, we can, decipher by, just reasoning deduction where we need to go. We really need to understand, folks. If he's upset about a road, that's like people upset.
Robbie, you don't give that man no credit. Let's talk about something else. Look, he says you have some FBA support too. I love you for speaking on our behalf fearlessly. I bring you up all the time among our ADOS FBA circles. Mwah! I love you, family. I love you, family. I love you, family. I'm gonna stay in the fight. Don't take that damn sweater off, Robbie.
I'm hot.
Okay, I hope that's the only reason you're taking it off.
No, I'm. It is a sweater, sir. Go ahead,
Robbie. Let it go. Let it go. I'm going to continue to stick and stay in the fight. People are asking me, what's next, Tamara? What's next? I'm praying and trusting God. He will show me. He will guide me. We will move in the right direction. I am not going anywhere. I'm going to continue to be loud about our repair, our redress, about reparations. I'm not going no damn where. I don't care who gets elected, whether it be Warnock or Kelly, Ossoff or Perdue. I'm going. Look, trust me. Y'all might look up and I'm in Washington knocking on somebody's door. Don't get it twisted. I'm not going nowhere. This is probably giving me more fuel to my fire.
I expected nothing less from you.
2021 is gonna be a good year, Robbie. I'm committed to, I'm committed. I just believe it's gonna be a good year. I'm excited. This vaccine, people are talking about it. That's a conversation I actually haven't had. Our community has been, Black people were experimented on. We were the ones y'all were practicing on and doing things to. So I don't feel very confident, honestly. Me personally, I'm not telling anybody else what to do, but I have had a conversation with my family, and we're going to continue to do what it takes to maintain our own personal health. But do I trust this vaccine? No. And
I don't want to take it.
And to hear, I heard Warnock say that he was going to take it, and he was going to tell people to take it.
Yeah, he has medical. He
Yeah, yeah,
makes 275 in a pulpit plus speaking engagements. He's got medical. If he gets sick, he's covered. I mean,
yeah. I don't, I'm just like I said, I'm going to try to find if anybody knows a holistic doctor or somebody that we can bring in. I really want to incorporate, some better practices into this into our broadcast to talk about different herbs and vitamins and just kind of, I really want us to be mindful of our health moving into the new year. Like I say, I grew up eating a certain kind of way, which has led to me even like I don't eat beef now. I stopped eating beef. I stopped eating pork. I haven't eaten those things since high school. Well, actually, I stopped eating pork at 16, and by 21, I was not eating beef. I still eat a little bit of fish, well, a little bit of chicken and turkey and fish, and I literally could probably wean off of those things too. So I'm very mindful of what I put in my body. I love fruits and I love vegetables. I like, fresh stuff. So, I mean, I just want us to be mindful that we have to take our health. It has to become our own personal responsibility. My mother passed away back in 2005. My brain kind of doesn't allow me to really remember, but I know it's been 15 years. So it was 2005. And, she trusted the doctors. And, I don't have that same kind of trust. So I just try to do whatever I can to stay as healthy as I can. I do listen. Don't think I don't listen to the doctors, because I go to the doctor and I listen, but I'm mindful of my own body and what I think is best for me.
I mean, it makes sense to me. A lot of times, I don't think we realize that all of these industries have really become complexes that just sustain their own salaries. Whether it's the prison industrial complex that is sustaining for profits for people, or whether it's the pharmaceutical and the medical complex where we're not really getting the health. All they do is treating symptoms. When they're not creating health, they're creating more salaries to keep those industries going. And even, real estate. I'm in real estate, and I can see the problems, in my own industry. And I don't know that they're going to be corrected. I didn't get in real estate to harm people and actually make people lose where they live, so that home can be flipped. I didn't get in real estate to damage families because they're displaced, because city of Atlanta thought it was a good idea to send in, tour bus loads of folks so that these areas could be flipped for more taxes. So I'm glad that you're speaking about independent thinking. That's what this is. And, even this stuff with the election, to think that there's not fraud, to not believe that there isn't a level of fraud. I don't know how anyone who has lived, beyond 25 years could not think that there's got to be, because look at everything else. Everything else does.
The algorithms, there's a post that was going out about the algorithms for the platform that was used to count the votes. And do I believe, I'm a computer science major. I understand code, and I understand how you can manipulate code, and I know how you can embed some code. You can embed things in code to make it do what you want, and you can kind of disguise it. I understand that. So do I believe, like you, Robbie, that there's some manipulation and some voter suppression and some fraud? Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't think it's new. People have been talking about races being manipulated, stolen, etc., from way back. It's just that both parties are kind of internally turning on themselves. Trump is rogue enough to be like, y'all screwed me, even though I brought you this base. I'm gonna tell everything, and that's actually understandable from a personal point of view. And the Democrats have their own internal struggles. You got establishment politicians. I know some of them.
The Black vote has no concrete value if there is no components of social improvement within it, lest it's a manipulated vote. Better to withhold the vote until the dignity, historical contributions, and greatness of African Americans are noted and taken seriously. There we go. I agree.
Yeah, that man knows how to hold. I mean, why did we fold like this? That's what I feel like. We folded, and we bought into this. We got to beat Trump, and we're all in this together. No, we're not. Yeah,
Democratic
no.
talking points, yes, like, and that was what they kept saying, right, Robbie? We got to beat Trump. We got to. Let me tell you something. Trump was the worst thing and the best thing that ever happened to us all at the same time. He made us. He kept us on our toes. I appreciate that because we all was paying attention. Everybody that, even if you weren't politically astute, you were paying attention to Donald Trump. So I think he was the best thing and the worst thing that happened to us all at the same time. So here, black people, here's my thing to you. We've had 400 years of Donald Trump. He wasn't the worst thing that happened to us. We've endured worse. So that should not have worked with us, but it did.
Well, and again, Trump was just so privileged. He grew up with such wealth that he didn't know what not to say. That's why those Republicans were like, "Oh no, you got to go because you are saying too much.
You
You
telling
are
the
being
truth. You telling
yeah,
the truth.
was so privileged. He is so privileged that
Mm-hmm,
he's oblivious of what not to reveal when they have
mm-hmm,
been handling these things through our system, through our political system, pretending to be elected officials, public servants, when really we have created another industrial complex. We
mm-hmm,
have a political industrial complex saving its own salaries. They have a gym in Washington. They have medical. They pay themselves 174 a year. They don't even work half the year. I mean, who lives like that for the rest of the country?
mm-hmm. We have family property that would be donated to housing the homeless. All we need is subsidies in order to be self-sufficient, instead of subsidizing Israel, which has free medical and education. Yep.
Well, that's what this whole argument now for the stimulus, they want to put all this other stuff in the package. Now they're both parties are blaming each other. Oh, Trump's so horrible. Oh, there's fraud. Oh, that we're watching an American political soap opera while homeless people are freezing to death, while
Mm-hmm.
families are about to be evicted, while there's a housing crisis that our own city created here in Atlanta. The focus is on Georgia, and no one's even being honest about Atlanta politics. Not
Mm-hmm.
John Ossoff, not Raphael Warnock. I mean, if we're gonna do it, let's do it. Let's clean it up.
If they wanted to clean it up, if that was their intention. See, this is where the money, pisses me off, because the money that's poured into these races, they owe those people first. They owe those people first. They owe that back first. So they can't help us because they got to help them.
Well, to me, the indication, which is why, I understand withhold the vote, if you had heard from the Democratic Party, if Raphael Warnock would have operated inclusively instead of, allowing him to be a cherry pick candidate, then we could have had some faith in what would have happened, right? But the fact that that didn't happen is very telling. John Ossoff went on Fox the other day. I think I saw an article about it that he referenced someone walking around with a Klansman. I mean, there's all kinds of things flying around. Where is this going to go? What does that do for the homeless people outside? What does that do for families who are about to be evicted? What does that do for our affordability crisis? What does that do for those rocks under the bridges? Are we going to pay people to come move those now? Like, who made that decision?
Mm-hmm.
Why does that person still have a job? I don't.
That's why we have to demand something in exchange for this vote. Demand it, and not just demand it, Robbie. We gotta stand, like you say. He's holding. We have to hold. We have to make that demand and stay there. Stay there with that demand, and then show them. Do not take my vote for granted. But hell, we just keep giving it away for free. That's the part that pisses me off. We just give it away. Oh, well, we don't know what else to do. And this is why I'm excited, Kwame. You can put the name of the party that you represent, because there's options out there. And black people, let me tell you what I find. If we don't tell them what to do, sadly, that's the trauma. That's the what happened to us from slavery. We still can't, for some reason, we're not thinking critically. We still can't think for ourselves. It's something still there, some block. Like I say, between the indoctrination of the Democratic Party and the church, we can't get beyond our own thinking. And if we don't, like I say, stick and stay and hold, and then let the chips fall where they may. Show both parties. You will not take us for granted. You will not take us for granted.
Mhm. I'd like to see a separate party, an option, because I think that that'll make it easiest. I think people, both parties will go, what? An option B, what? They don't have to choose between the lesser of two evils or think that it's not going to matter. And I want to thank Michael Hyman. He actually referenced, I think I said 200 years. He said 400 plus years prison labor keeps American money. He's absolutely right. So, after slavery, it became the prison industrial complex. So thank you.
Yeah. I'm just, Tuesday will be interesting.
Are
Tuesday
you
will be
hosting an event?
no.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess we'll follow up.
I'm gonna watch it like everybody else, and we'll let the chips fall where they may. And whoever wins, it really doesn't matter. He represents the Mahali Party. This is the road to Black political independence and nationhood. So if you're interested, look it up, mahaliparty.org. We do have to have. I do believe that having a third option is an excellent idea. And until then, we gotta play one side against the other. And Black people, if we don't, one thing about us, we have, like I was gonna say earlier, we have to be told what to do. And if we don't give us, if Black people don't have an option, Robbie, we'll run right back to the plantation. It's kind of like when we were free from slavery, right? And we didn't know what else to do. Where we were scared. Where do we go? And then we got this chance to go and be free. And then some of us ran right back to the plantation because that's all we knew. And the thought of doing anything more, or the unknown scared us more. The unknown scared us more than the devil we knew. So having a third option, I think, would be helpful to a lot of Black people that are like, okay, so where do we go? What do we do? So again, he's here with mahaliparty.org. Check it out. Take a look at it. See if it's something that you're interested in. Be a part of what they're doing. We just have to, Black people, I wish we knew how to play this political game. So we'll see how Tuesday turns out. This may be, part of our withhold the vote going into the new year. Let's teach people how to play politics. Politics is a sport. And we are that ball that's being tossed back and forth, back and forth. We're the ball. So if we're going to be that ball, let's make sure that we end up in the hands of whoever going to give us what we want in exchange for that vote. So we got some work to do. I think there's a lot of political education that needs to happen. So 2021, this is what we need to, definitely what we need to work on. Thank you, William. Instead of between the Democratic Party and the religion indoctrination. Yeah, our people are stuck. Having Raphael, that bothers me. Raphael knew, bro, as a reverend, how we feel about the church. I know for me, and I can just, how we feel about the church. How we feel about our pastors. How we love God. So for you to get into politics and you don't talk Black to us, how dare you? How dare you, Raphael Warnock? How dare you? You don't have an agenda. You let John Ossoff walk across the Edmund Pettus Bridge in a commercial, and you don't have nothing for Black people. You let these people tell you not to talk to us specifically, not to address our needs specifically. You let the Democratic Party and that power and that money, you let them people use you against your own people. How dare you? How dare you, Raphael Warnock? I'm not okay with him. Run tell that. I'm not okay with him. And it's all about the issues, bro. It ain't personal. It's very political because you're using that pulpit for your personal political gain. And how we are as a people. It's like you took that one thing where we weak. We love God. And we weak. And we're going to fall for that because we love God. So you allow these people to use you to not speak to us and for us. God is watching. I'm done, right?
We all are. Let's see what happens with the Senate. Let's see if he can redeem himself. You know, I mean, there's always
I pray
redemption.
he can.
I,
I
it
pray
would,
you are the winner, that you become bold in your blackness. You become bold in your being forthright for us as a people. You become bold in that. I pray that for you, Raphael Warnock, that you find that part of you, the ancestors inside of you that speak. I pray that you find that if you become the winner in this race.
and I hope John Ossoff, you know, if he, if Raphael Warnock does turn around, if he does win and he says, you know what, we need to have a commission on reparations and reaches out to other people and is inclusive, I hope, you know, John Ossoff supports him on that because there was a
John
show,
Oswald said he didn't though. Go ahead. Did you
there
see
was a
that?
show. No, go ahead.
No, did you see that? He didn't say he was for reparations. I haven't heard him say he was
No,
for
I
reparations.
hope if Raphael Warnock leads it in the future, if he wins, that John Ossoff will support him. That's,
Let's see
I,
exactly. Let's see if they fall out over that. They so tight. They so tight right now. Y'all running neck and neck. Y'all bros, right? Y'all so tight. Let's see if Raphael find his black self when he get to the United States Senate, and then let's see if John Ossoff supports you in that. This gonna be real. I want y'all to pull out the popcorn, put your seatbelts on, because trust me, I'm not going nowhere. I'm gonna ride whoever wins. If Kelly wins, I'm knocking on her door. If Ossoff and Warnock wins, I'm knocking on their door. Purdue wins, we're knocking on these doors. We're gonna play politics because it's playing us right now, and it's time for us to play it back and not be so damn scared. What's gonna happen? Nothing. We don't survive Donald Trump. They say he was the worst thing that ever happened in our lifetime. Black people, look, we made it. 2021, we here. We survived. We just as broke as we was before he started. Right now, we still in the same place. You can't tell me. You know, we had 8 years of Obama. We hell, I lost my business during Obama with the housing market crash. I had to close my salon and go into a smaller setting just to survive. So you know, I'm
the fascinating part is listening to what's showcased in the media. You see, sometimes they'll show a small business and it's a person of color. Oh, look what happened to my small business, etc. But when I look on social media, which is beyond, you know, manipulated media, and I see small businesses, really a lot of Caucasian people, their businesses are suffering, and the things that they would have taught that they are not tolerating, people of color have tolerated for forever. So it's fascinating to see what's acceptable.
that was Bush, whoever the heck it was. Okay, it was Bush when it happened, but that's okay. Obama damn sure didn't fix it because black
I think
people are still on the bottom. And by 2053, Nicole, black people will have zero net wealth. White America has 10 times the wealth of black America today. And that we had 8 years of Obama. Seemed like we would be in a better place, Nicole, but we're not. Robert, we got two
I
more
have to
minutes
agree
left
with
in
her,
this
Nicole.
broadcast.
I guess I'm gonna throw in people for Latinos because you know we always hear about like a black and brown agenda. The truth of the matter is the Latins that I see, we've been used as cheap labor. You know, these folks showing up, the people off of Buford that are gonna get evicted, all those people are doing are all the construction and renovations in Atlanta. And when they're not useful anymore, they'll be displaced, just like what's you know being reviewed at Buford right now in Gwinnett. So I don't know if anybody knows if the Raphael Warnock, but I hope that if the Democrats, you know, whatever, whether there's fraud or not fraud, once this or not fraud or etc., which uh, there's been a history of it, so it is what it is. If they win, please be inclusive. Please bring other people to the table beyond what the Democratic Party has dictated so we can actually get some things accomplished and not just watch money go get poured into a problem that never actually helps the people it was intended to help or makes it worse.
We don't want no more damn social programs, Raphael Warnock and John Ossoff. Give us our reparations. That's what you fight for. You want to fight for black people? Give us our reparations. And he says Congressman Cynthia McKinney was the last of the unbossed Black congressional voice. The ones today are spineless. We wanted to give 2021, we kicked this thing off with a bang, Robbie, with some dialogue from the audience.
I've been re-inspired to some degree. I just hope it's clear that a basic quality of life, living wage, affordability, medical, does not equate to reparations. A basic quality of life for everybody so that we don't pay 5 times. We're not letting corporations literally starve our people and fill the pockets of CEOs so they can own yachts and 10 houses and boats, etc. That does not equate to reparations. And it's not the same.
Debt owed that stems from slavery to Jim Crow, black codes, convict leasing, no New Deal, no GI Bill, redlining, war on drugs, mass incarceration, COVID-19 taking us out. Pay us what you owe us, America. You built this country off the back, off the blood, off the sweat of Black people. You enslaved us and you enriched yourself. And white America today has 10 times the wealth. By 2053, Black America will have zero net wealth. We will be a permanent undercast in this country. We won't come back from that. You're going to pay us what you owe us. Because this generation, we coming to get our check. Robbie, we'll see everybody next week.